I love graphics cards, and something tells me I'm not the only one. And what really makes me more excited than a graphics card is a graphics card shootout. And you guys have been asking me for a long time to do a 970 SLI versus 980 Ti or versus Titan X, and today we're finally doing that video. Gigabyte's Flex display technology automatically detects and connects up to 4 displays for the best gaming experience in multi-display Ultra HD. Click the link in the description to find out more. Now here are the graphics cards we're taking a look at here today. We are looking at the EVGA ACX 2.0 970 and SLI. We're looking at the NVIDIA 980 Ti, the EVGA 980 Ti Hybrid, and the NVIDIA Titan X. So if you guys want to check out more about those individual videos, I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over each individual card. We've already done reviews on all these cards and you can see those right here. So if you want to pause this video, head over there, check out the individual reviews, you can do that. Now it should be no surprise that of the bunch here, the most bang for your buck is going to be a GTX 970. In fact, it's still one of the most recommended cards of price to performance for 1080p on the NVIDIA side, if you guys are looking for NVIDIA and staying current with all of the new NVIDIA GameWorks stuff. That's going to be the card you want to put in your arsenal. So it comes without surprise that so many people have requested a 970 SLI versus the new flagship cards from NVIDIA, the 980 Ti and the Titan X. Now, two 970s is going to come in right around $700, a little bit less, give or take which model you go with. There's a lot of different custom PCBs, and we're going to be looking at the 980 Ti reference model, which comes in at $650. So technically, two 970s would be a little bit more than a GTX 980 Ti, and it would be less than a 980 Ti Hybrid, which comes in currently at $749. And then, of course, you have the massively very expensive Titan X at $1,000, which is, well, as we've already figured out with the 980 Ti, becoming a little bit of an old news when it comes to flagship graphics cards by cutting off only 256 CUDA cores and 6 gigabytes of VRAM more than the 980 Ti, coming in at 12 gigabytes of VRAM. And we still are not even coming close to even touching that amount of buffer. It really becomes nothing more than bragging rights. Now, I ran the exact same tests on all of these cards. And actually, I went through and ran them multiple times because I wanted to make sure that my numbers were as accurate as possible. Now, of course, the 980 Ti Hybrid was run at full max overclock. The 980 Ti was running at 1400 because that was matching what my Titan X was running comfortably at 1400. And then the 970 SLIs were both running at 1448 megahertz, right? I got to consult my spreadsheet. 1442 megahertz, that's 6 megahertz, could make a huge difference. So that's where the core clocks came in. Now, before we start talking about my conclusions on all of this, why don't we go ahead and just take a look at the benchmarks. Remember, the titles that we're taking a look at tend to be more demanding titles. I stayed away from titles that have a lot of customization because it's hard to get a uniform experience across the board when your results are definitely going to vary based on mods that you have. So of course, Minecraft is out, Skyrim is out, and Shadow of Mordor is out because of the HD resolution texture pack. That meant the 970 SLI was technically out. So we are going to go ahead and stick with the titles which we have been doing all along, and you guys are going to see those right now.
Transition.
Now, I've said it before and I will say it again, and I'm going to say it again now. Graphics cards are all about your unique situation, and it's going to depend on a few factors. It's going to be what resolution panel are you running? What refresh rate is that panel? What games and what type of games are you playing? Are you playing shooters, RPGs, customizable games, simulators? they all have a different need when it comes to GPU power. So in this situation, this amount of GPU power you're looking at is probably overkill for the vast majority of people watching this video, but we can still find it interesting and do it for the sake of science. Nerdy science. I like nerdy science. Keeps me with a job. I really wish that I had the ACX cooler for the Titan X as well as the ACX cooler for the 980 Ti, because then it would have been a more across-the-board comparison when it came to noise levels. Now obviously when it comes to noise levels, the 980 Ti hybrid wins because the fan on the PCB never speeds up, it doesn't have to, and then the fan on the radiator runs at a pretty constant low RPM of about 1000 RPM and doesn't speed up, doesn't slow down, doesn't make a sound, and the card is no louder than any of these other cards at idle while under full load. So when it comes to noise, clearly the 980 Ti hybrid wins. But what about performance? It's all about performance. It's always about performance. When it comes to performance, it should be no surprise that the 970 SLI held its own against even the top dog Titan X. Now the Titan X, as we know, is only a few percent faster than the 980 Ti, so that's really where our focus should be. Now obviously buying something like the Titan X is going to have a pretty significant loss of return on investment when it comes to FPS per dollar, or dollar per FPS, whichever way you want to look at it. You're going to get the most bang for your buck technically with the 980 Ti because it's a little bit cheaper than two 970s in SLI. But of course, the 970 SLI is giving you a few FPS more. But then it comes down to it. Do you want to pay more for a few more FPS? Well, if the argument doesn't hold true for the Titan X that paying more doesn't make sense, then it shouldn't really hold true for the 970 SLI in this case either. Even though we're talking only about 50 bucks versus $350, the argument should stay the same. When it comes to the 970 SLI, you're getting 980 Ti and Titan X performance, but for a heck of a lot less than the Titan X, and about the same price as the 980 Ti. And I don't think that's going to surprise anybody. NVIDIA has always been very good at making sure that whatever the top tier card is about double the price of whatever two cards in SLI would match. That's kind of always been that way, and it will probably always be that way. It should be no surprise how performance to dollar ratios work with NVIDIA. They've been very smart on that. So one of the reasons why we didn't see a 970 price drop like we did on the 980, because then it would have meant for cheaper than a 980 or 980 Ti, sorry, you could have beaten the performance for significantly less. So I'm not too surprised with where we're landing here on performance per dollar, SLI versus standard. Now the only title that really exceeded the 3.5 gigabytes of VRAM that is, or fast VRAM that is present on the 970 boards was Far Cry 4. And that was at 4K with 2x MSAA on and everything on, you know, the high settings. Now I didn't notice any stutters or slowdowns. I did notice, of course, that 4K to me is still unplayable at the 40 FPS range that it tends to hang out at. And I prefer 60 FPS or higher, obviously. Now, it's kind of sad that two 970s still can't get you 60 FPS in 4K. So that really means the single GPU power found in the 980 Ti and the Titan X really does come to light on just how powerful that GM200 GPU is, where two GM204s barely match the power of one GM200. So, well, at least for the 970 anyway. Now, should you buy any of these combos behind me here, the two 970s or the 980 Ti, custom 980 Ti or Titan X? Well, obviously, if you're running a 1080p panel that's a 60 hertz panel, the answer is no. Get yourself one 970, be happy, or get yourself a single 290 or 290X, whatever. You'll be future compatible for titles for a long time, and you're not going to be breaking the bank. The 3.5 gigabytes of VRAM is still going to be good for most titles for several years to come. You'll probably upgrade before 3.5 gigabytes of VRAM becomes a real limiting factor. And if you're running a 144 hertz panel, then it might make sense to you because you would want those high refresh rates without screen tearing, and you could take advantage of the amount of horsepower found behind me. But if you're running a 1440p panel or a 4K panel, obviously you're going to need this much horsepower. And in my opinion, you need more horsepower than two 970s and SLI are going to give you. So what's my recommendation if you're running a 4K panel? Well, none of these, honestly. My recommendation would still be two 980s, not TIs, two standard 980s and SLI if you have the budget. It'd run you about $1,000 and you would get a lot of future compatibility. You could run 4K in the future even if you don't have it now. And with DX12 coming out, you're going to get really good overhead when it comes to CPU performance, GPU performance, and you're going to find that two 980s is going to be a much better return than getting, say, a single Titan X. But if you're running a 1440p panel or 4K panel, as you can see, two 970s holds its own against these other cards, but of course it has quite a bit less memory. So my opinion would be to get a 980 Ti if you've got the $700 price point that you could spend in your system and you want to stay future compatible with any title as long as you possibly can. The 980 Ti still is the king as far as I'm concerned at high resolution panels for that type of price point. But if you already have a 970, then by all means get a second 970. The 3.5 gigabytes of VRAM at 1080p is not going to be a problem for still a while on most titles. There's always the exception to the rule. Don't flame me in the comments. I know there's exceptions, but remember guys, those are exceptions. And at 1440p and 4K, who knows how long that's going to actually stay compatible as companies start to tap into that VRAM as it becomes available. So there you go guys, GTX 970 SLI versus 980 Ti versus 980 Ti Hybrid versus Titan X. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. You guys have asked for it for a long time. I've teased it for far too long, and here it is. As always guys, I couldn't do these videos without you. It means a ton that you guys watch and follow on social media and all that stuff, and that you guys take an interest in all of this nerdy crap that we take a look at, because it's a hell of a lot of fun. We got a lot of stuff coming up on the channel and not a lot of time to get it done, so I need to end this video and get going. So as always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.